Welcome to We Got Balls, real, raw, masculine sex talk with Chris Inman and Scott Cohn. Here we go.
Hey guys, welcome to this special episode of We Got Balls, and we are coming to you because we have something that we want to say. And we don't always come and do an episode about things that are going on current events wise, but man, Scott, we've had a lot of feedback to the channel. Super grateful for the feedback that we've gotten and the opportunity to connect with a bunch of different guys. But one of the things that we've kind of felt in the tension of this particular conversation is how do we integrate this idea of faith? And what was that definition of faith that you used a few minutes ago that was really, really helpful?
I think faith is about having a sense of transcendent purpose and meaning that's bigger than you in life. That's okay. What I would.
That's good. So for those of us who were raised in the church, that sounds like a really liberal and squishy version of faith. And so, like, even as you say that, my butt cheeks kind of clenched up a little bit. And I'm like,
you're trying to stick your humanist dick up my butt.
Say that from a pulpit, guys.
Yeah.
And so that is what we really want to talk about is what does it mean to be men of faith in that context, having a sense of transcendence and purpose in life. And how are we bringing that and integrating that into our conversations on We Got Balls? Because it really is a fundamental aspect of who we are and what we do. And so we don't want to sugarcoat it. We want to be real. I mean, the whole point of this conversation is being real and raw and being honest with what we want to say. So in that conversation, Scott, when we think about this idea of converting people and the comments that have been made in some of our posts and maybe even the thoughts that guys may have had is like, you guys are too religious. Why you got to bring this religious shit into the podcast? We want to put some clarity on that and let you know where we're coming from and how you can better understand this perspective that we're trying to bring, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. So, Scott,
And as an extension of that, there's also been comments that we're trying to convert your sexuality. Like something's wrong with how I'm attracted to people or the people I'm attracted to. And you guys are secretly trying to convert me. You're kind of introducing a Trojan conversion horse here in the podcast.
Yeah. And that's, and I will be honest, and as a religious person who was raised in the church, that shit has happened. People have put on a face and tried to say, oh, we're not really anti this or anti that, but the real agenda was to convert people, was to change their mind and make them right. And for me, for my money, Scott, that's what gets my blood boiling is when I get around people who are secretly trying to fix me. Like, I get angry.
Me too. So that's what this is, an angry podcast about conversion.
Anger with laughter. That's what we do the best. So when you think about this idea of integrating your faith and the idea that maybe some people think we're trying to bring a secret Christian message, secret faith message into people's lives, what does that bring up for you?
It brings up a lot of anger for me too, because, growing up, not really having a kind of evangelical Christian experience. I was part of a mainline denomination, and the sexual views in that denomination were very kind of liberal and do whatever you want as long as it feels good and you have consent. So coming to faith when I was 17, I was kind of baptized, so to speak, into this very rigid view on life and faith and truth, right? And so there was a lot of certainty that was offered to me, I would say kind of crammed down my throat at times. And as I've kind of been engaging that part of my story, the sexual abuse part of my story, or the spiritual abuse part of my story, it really has raised a lot of anger and grief for me that in the name of God, or in the name of this search for transcendent spirituality, a deeper meaning and sense of purpose in life that goes beyond me, right? That I was given a very rigid and prescriptive and very defined way of viewing this without a lot of exploration or play or curiosity, to be honest with you. And what that did to my heart, how that shut me down in areas of desire how that led to a lot of disappointments, a lot of heartache, and then really kind of served as a basis for me rebelling in a way by going out and doing a lot of sexual stuff that maybe kind of unraveled my life. So there was a relationship between that kind of my growing up family system and all that harm. So it's an area where I feel like a lot of the comments are well deserved, not because of what necessarily we're doing, but because of the suspicion that anybody that comes from a faith position has an agenda that they're going to try to cram this down your throat. And the goal is conversion of what, my sexuality, so I don't like the things I like sexually, conversion of my views, conversion of my values. Like, I have to basically now conform. I would say that's the message is you convert and you conform. Because if you want to be accepted here, these are the terms of acceptance.
Well, and that gets to the heart of what I would say is the issue, maybe in culture right now, but also definitely in masculinity, is that there is a right way to do things. And this right way that was written about in a book and is believed by a whole segment of population, which ironically is very contradictory depending on how you look at it. You know, it's funny how you can have so much security in something that's so debatable, but that's the point of view. Is there, if you get it right, and we know from our faith tradition that the people who believe that they are right are actually the ones who were most condemned by the faith leaders that we follow. And yet, here we go, doing it again in our culture, thinking if I can just get the right prescription and get the right truths and embrace the right things, that's what conversion is all about, isn't it? It's about conformity to the right, whatever that may be. So whether you think, you should live a promiscuous lifestyle and let nobody tell you what to do, and don't you dare try to make me something that I'm not. We don't want to do that. We want you to live your authentic desires out and see where it takes you. But the reality is, and what we talk about and what we say in our conversations is, we value connection, being with one another, far more than we value being right. Because the reality is, Scott, I don't know. I mean, we talk pretty confidently on this podcast because we feel very strongly about what we believe. But in a lot of things, we don't know. We just don't know. And it's perfectly okay to say that, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the problem with kind of a lot of modern faith traditions that have been kind of hijacked and co-opted by leaders that have an agenda. There is definitely an agenda there. A lot of it's driven by money. A lot of it's driven by power. A lot of it's driven by prestige.
Shame. It's all driven by fucking shame.
Yeah. And so, but what is shame about, Chris? It's about controlling people. Like,
absolutely. Well, so let's get into the clarity about that. When you're driven by shame, the point is, I'm trying to make somebody else look worse than me. So I'm going to go on a rampage of calling people out and saying all the things. You remember Ted Haggart? You remember Ted Haggart, Scott?
I do remember Ted Haggart.
Preacher out in Colorado. What, about 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And he was preaching conversion therapy for the homosexuals. The homosexuals are going to hell. And the whole time that Ted Haggart is preaching about conversion therapy for the homosexuals, what is Ted Haggart doing?
He's having gay sex with a erotic massage therapist.
Yeah, and getting high, and taking drugs in a hotel room.
It was meth. It was another addictive strategy.
Yeah.
Now, we're kind of dipping into shaming Ted Haggart,
but we're trying to point out that the people who try to convert people often have, like you're talking about, that hidden agenda that they're really stuck in shame.
Yeah.
I think by telling our stories, hopefully guys will feel this, have been very vulnerable about our shame. We try not to hide anything that we feel safe to tell. I mean, there's certain things that obviously we keep confidential for the sake of our families. But it's not because we want to hide anything. We want to be as vulnerable as we possibly can, because we're actually at war against shame far more than we are against a wrong way of living.
Yeah. So what is the what is the appeal of that to people? I think the appeal, if I look back at my story and why was I drawn, I was really part of what I would consider to be a Christian cult in within the first 10 years of my Christian walk. And the reason it appealed to me so much is they offered a vision of certainty and rightness, the thing that you're talking about.
Yep.
They just had all the answers for everything. In fact, they had all the answers for when we were supposed to get married and who we were supposed to marry and how we were supposed to have sex and whether or not we were supposed to use birth control, where we were supposed to live, what kind of jobs we were supposed to take. I mean, basically how many squares of toilet paper you wipe your butt with. And when you grow up in an environment where you have a lot of uncertainty, a lot of hurt, a lot of rejection, you can see why that feeling chosen and welcomed and accepted and given a bunch of rules to live by is really appealing to people. Because when you grow up with a lot of trauma, you're just looking for you're looking for some stability.
You're looking for safety and security, but you'll settle for certainty.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And so I settled for an environment that really wasn't that safe because shame was used as a daily cudgel to keep everybody in line. But the certainty was that false sense of safety that allowed me to kind of operate for a while and hold my life together to a certain degree. It wasn't true integration, but it was kind of an external control system that allowed me to function for a while. And, but as all kind of control and command methods do, it eventually begins to break down because it becomes impossible to manage your life in a coherent, calm, compassionate, curious way under that kind of system. And we end up just basically replicating elements of our upbringing when we kind of gravitate to those kinds of scenarios. What's the alternative? The alternative is I just chuck it all. I deconstruct. I embrace my true feelings in my heart. I follow my heart wherever it wants to go. And if my heart wants to have promiscuous sex with whoever I want, whenever I want, I abandon myself to complete indulgence in that side, with the only rule being, the only restraint is consent. So as long as I get somebody to agree with me, I can have sex with them, as an example. Or I can do whatever I want as long as I can get away with it. And I don't think either of those visions of life transcend, number one. And I don't think they work ultimately in the long term either. They end up unraveling us in one way or another. And so we're seeking kind of a third way, which is how can I welcome desire in my life and honor it and make meaning out of what I desire and why I desire it? And how do I also live in a way that is consistent with who I most want to be, with my spiritual values, if you will? I live in a way that's not just about the current moment, but it's about how do I transcend the suffering and the momentary pleasures of life to actually do something that makes a difference in the lives of others, is what I would say is kind of what I'm doing.
And Scott, I think that's where the desire for connection really comes in. Is connection is messy, and it's really neat and clean to have all the answers, and it's kind of neat and clean to be, able to just go out and do whatever I want to do because the only person that matters is me. So yeah, I create, relational debris fields behind me, whether I'm super rigid or careless. Let's say that careless, put that way, because in that place of carelessness, I feel like I'm being truly me, but there's nothing being built. It's just a debris field of what I want. And I think when we're getting back to conversion, I think the one thing that is missing from the conversion conversation is this one word. And we use it all the time, but let's point it out specifically: desire. What do you want? If there's one thing that we want to guide this conversation around, it's promoting desire. Because we believe each person's unique desires are what makes the world beautiful. And without encouraging you to step freely into, we use the word God-given desire sometimes, but truly it's just what you wake up with in the morning that really makes you come alive, that connects you to the universe, connects you to your purpose in life, connects you to other people, ultimately connects you to yourself. When you can live in that desire, conversion becomes unnecessary. Because when we celebrate that, then I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be with me. Because my life is a hell of a lot better when we're hanging out together and you tell a joke that I've never thought of, or you have an insight that just blows my mind, or you tell me a story that makes me cry, because I don't have access to that. You bring that to me, and hopefully I bring that to you as well. And beauty is created as we promote desire. Now, what gets twisted is when we get into these religious, strict environments, desire is demonized, and it's like totally shut down. There, any desire is sinful, is broken, is bad. So don't talk about desire. And then you go to the other side, to the carefree way of living. Desire is worshipped, and that's all that's there is. I just want you to live in your feelings and do whatever feels good. You hear that language, right? Again, the two extremes don't get you where you want to go.
And there is no faith tradition in the world that teaches that either of those two extremes work. All of the faith traditions teach that life is found in the balancing of desire and containment, or attunement and containment, as we would say in a psychological term. So true life and true flourishing isn't found in doing whatever you want, because you're going to find out at a certain point. And here's a great way to just think about this. Go live as a hedonist for 2 years. Do whatever you want, pursue all the pleasure you want, eat, drink, and be merry, and see how much of a relationship you have with others at the end of that 2-year period.
And Scott, we have told men that exact thing. You need to go and just have a season where you just pursue the things that make your heart come alive and see where you are. Have we not?
Yes, we have. And they freak out when we do. What? Really? Yeah. Go to the massage parlor. Go hook up on Grindr. Get on Tinder and have sex with as many people as you want to.
Yeah. Go watch porn until your dick falls and rub it till your dick falls off.
We beat it like it owes you money. Here's what you need to know when we tell you that. We'll be here when you're done with that. And you find out it's not fulfilling. If you do, maybe that's what you really want. And if you do, we'll bless you and we'll still love you. But if you come back and say, it wasn't what I thought it would be, we'll still be here for you. We're not going to shame you.
We'll be here to grieve with you, because the thing that you thought was going to bring you life doesn't. And welcome to the human race and the human experience and the journey of faith, which is finding out what actually makes me come alive through trial and error over time.
And on the flip side, for the guys coming from a very religious, restrictive kind of asceticism and piety, we're going to say, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
When you tried to pray that blank away, how did that help you? Yeah. Oh, it didn't. I actually went from doing that to having sex with somebody. So do you see the connection between your love for God and your love for sex? Is there a relationship there?
Dude, how many times have we heard that? Like the sexual awakening and the spiritual awakening are like, they're symbiotic. They happen at the same time over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually did this last night in a process in one of my groups where the guys started out saying, what I really want to do right now is act out. And I said to him, thank you for your vulnerability. Like that took a lot of courage to do that. Would you like to engage that? And we kind of dig into it and see where it's coming from. He's like, yeah. So we walked him through the processes that we use to just have some compassionate inquiry about that. Like if you did act out, what would it do for you right now? What are you feeling in your body when you think about that? What were you feeling in your body right before you thought of going and sexually acting out? What was going on there? And what we typically find out, there's a really unpleasant, big emotion like anger, fear, sadness, or shame that's percolating below the level of conscious awareness. But when you think about it and pay attention, oh yeah, that was there first. And then I went to the horniness and the sexual fantasy to try to escape that with something good, because those emotions don't feel very pleasant in my body. And then the question is, When's the first time you remember doing that, or the most intense time in your life where you remember going to sex to escape the heartache that you were in, the pain that you were in? And lo and behold, a memory emerged from when he was 12 and he had just gotten baptized. And then his cousin exposed herself to him. And there's the story.
Where you go?
God and sex are married together.
God and genitals all together.
And now I'm in a war with myself because I'm in a war with desire. I love God and I love to have an orgasm.
Yes. And there we go. So let's break down some real clarity around what we're not trying to do in this process, Scott. I think it'd be really important to just say it out loud. And if you want to clip this and put this out into the world, and if you see guys on our channel commenting, we're going to be using some language similar to this over and over again when we get accused of converting people. If we have a guy who comes to us and he's commenting and he's saying, listen, I am openly gay, or I'm living a promiscuous lifestyle with women and I am going to do whatever I want to do, what do we say to him?
Well, bless you. We bless your desires and we bless what you're pursuing in your life. And I don't see how we can really help you because it seems like you've already decided that's your value. That's what you want to pursue. That's your authentic self. So there's nothing much we can do in that regard because we're kind of going in a different direction, that the core of what we do is relational, not informational or not transactional. So somebody that just wants to have sex with a lot of people and wants to pursue kind of that hedonistic lifestyle, we're not going to be that helpful. Same thing on the other side, somebody that wants to use a lot of religious shame and a lot of control and a lot of do's and don'ts to clamp down on their behavior and change, we're not going to be able to help you that much either, because neither of those methodologies work in the long run, and they're not something that we support.
But listen, we don't judge where you are. If you're coming to us and saying, and I think what's been helpful, because we've had experience in more religious environments, so we've structured the podcast to kind of offend the people who would normally tune in and be like, oh, I wouldn't talk about that. Exactly. That's why we're talking about it. We say these things to have a little bit of shock and awe, to be able to say, we're going to talk about anything. It's in the subline of the podcast, real and raw sex talk.
But we could be just as offensive on the other side by saying to people, if you're sexually attracted to men and you don't act on those attractions in any way, and that's your core value, well, you should just ignore those and just have a ball and do whatever you want. Because to live a fulfilled life, you have to just pursue every possible desire that comes into your mind. Usually guys that are coming to us want help with their sexual struggles in some way.
And so that's why we want to structure this in the context of, we are holding the tension, and that's the word we're going to use, holding the tension between guys who believe they're intended for a life of connection and intimacy and purpose and desire, and yet they're struggling in some way with those sexual desires, with their identity as a man, with what it means to be compassionate and intimate. And so we want to hold space with those guys. That's what we're here for. So if you want an answer, if you want an absolute truth out of us, you're going to struggle to get it, because the only thing that we can tell you is these are the things that we found that work, but we ultimately are in a place of trusting that this is going to be a place for men to discover for themselves what is best. Every man must go on that journey to find out what works for him.
And when we say what works, we're referring to, of course, what we've been willing to do ourselves, what works for us, right?
Yes.
So we're not trying to tell you, here's the theory, you should go out and do this. We're trying to say, for me, this is the path that I've chosen, and this is what has worked for me as I've kind of sorted through these things in my life.
Yeah. And so as we say all that, we're coming from a place of personal experience, a place of the information that we've gathered and that we disperse on this channel is information that has resonated with our experiences, not the other way around. We didn't come across, this is a great idea, we ought to teach this. That's bullshit. That's not going to be helpful to anybody, because it's theory, like you're saying, Scott. It's not lived experience, embodied experience. I mean, Kurt Thompson says,
We all come into the world looking for somebody looking for us.
Try again.
Was there another one?
Nothing is real for me until it's real in my body.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so we're giving guys what we have resonated with in our own bodies and our own experiences, because we want to make sure that you feel this out for yourself. This is your journey. The reason we're not trying to convert you is because we don't believe that will help you at all. We can't give you anything of quote unquote truth that you're not ready to receive. So whenever you're ready to receive it, we will be glad. We'll be here and be glad to be, as Scott said, and as I've said, we'll continue to say, be with you. And we believe the journey relationally, interpersonally, and in the experience of desire and connection, which is why we say kindness and curiosity are our watchwords. Because when you're kind with another man, you're not judging where he is or telling him where he should be. You're just glad to be with him. When you're curious with another man, what you're doing is you're inviting him to walk that journey for himself. And we found that to be the most effective modality to help men heal. So that's what we do at We Got Balls.
So, question.
Yeah.
You're saying we're not trying to convert guys who are attracted to other guys to heterosexuality.
Absolutely. In fact, if you want to change your attractions, that's going to be really hard, because I know a ton of guys who are married to women or in relationships with women or are single, and they're struggling with their attraction to men because that's what they believe. They don't believe that is what is good for them. If you believe that's good for you, God bless you. Live out your life and live as an openly gay man and be proud of it. We're not talking to you. We love you. We're grateful for you. We celebrate you. But what we want to do in that is to say, we see you and we're with you wherever you want to go. So the same is true with any man who's like, listen, I love hooking up with women. God bless you. What we believe, though, Scott, and I think it's important to say, is we believe that some of those men, we will see them again. True or false?
True.
Because we've tried to walk that road too, of living out a life of indulgence and rigidity. We've done both. We've erred on both sides, and it hasn't worked.
Sometimes on the same day.
That's right. Oftentimes in the same day. So
hours apart.
So that's where we are. Just to be clear, we're not trying to convert you to a religion, to a faith, because again, what is faith, Scott?
Faith is a transcendent holding to a transcendent purpose and value in life.
And we want to invite people to that journey. We believe that modality of believing something greater than yourself and walking toward it will change your life. It's a 12-step tradition. I think it's an interfaith tradition. I think any religion, if you really boil it down, is inviting you to that experience. Any tradition that invites you to conform specifically to their beliefs, or you're going someplace, what do we call that, Scott?
Bullshit.
I would call it cultish, frankly.
Yeah.
I would say if you have to adhere to a particular group's values in order to be good, there's some real harm in that, some real rigidity in that. So we're not trying to convert you to any of that.
And we're not trying to convert your sexuality. If what you want to do is go and have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, again, we bless you in that. But what we are inviting people to do is, if you want to have a deeper relational connection with other people, including in your sexual life, that's something we can probably help you with. But we're not going to ask you to do something that doesn't seem true to you, that doesn't seem like something you really want to pursue or have a passion for in your life, that doesn't link back to your transcendent purpose and meaning in life. Why would we?
So be true to yourself, gentlemen. Be true to yourself. Now, if you don't know what it means to be yourself, keep listening, and we want to walk with you. If you've been told that yourself is one way and now you think it should be another way, we're here for you. We're here to walk with you. If you know who you are and know exactly where you want to go, and it's not into a place of curiosity and kindness and faith, God bless you. Spend your time listening to another show. Yes. We're not going to be able to help you. We're just not. And that's cool. We respect your journey and we are with you. But if you're in a place where you're really curious about why you continue to struggle, we've been there. We get it. And we want to keep walking with you right here on We Got Balls.
And you do too.
See you next time.
Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. You can connect with Chris and with Scott at successfulmen.com.